Hello, my friend. Welcome back to the Mindset Check podcast. This is a podcast where we believe that as you take time for a mindset check, you have more power than you think you do. And where we also believe that when we create our days, we create our life. I can't wait to jump into this New Year's episode with you and have this conversation that feels like it's on lots of people's minds and hearts, and just so excited to jump in. One thing that I want to share with you before we jump into this episode is something that my family tries to do every year about this time. It's really our New Year's celebration. And usually we like to go to dinner with it and, all the things. But I have one child in Puerto Rico and one child in Pennsylvania. So going to dinner and being together that way isn't going to happen. But we could still do the thing that was the funnest, the most important part. And we could still do it because of technology, which was so awesome. So we each sit down and just kind of look through our phone and find some highlight photos from the year previous. And that can be very organized and presented, or that can be very relaxed. And you can just be sitting around with your phones and kind of sharing photos, right? And we love to put them up on our TV so everybody can see them. Or in this case, we were on like a Zoom call or a Facebook call sharing our screens with each other and being able to really talk about, oh, here is a memory. Here's something that I did this year that was a highlight from my year. And oftentimes you learn things about your family, even when you're really, really close with them. You're living in the same house as them, all those things. And you never knew that happened for them that year. And so we kind of look at our highlights through photos, and then we also talk about what we think our greatest accomplishments were, the things that we really felt proud about. And we don't do this in like a prideful or a boastful way. We do this in a way that's a gift to the person who's looking, right? Because when we don't look for the things that really felt good to us, the things that we really felt like we accomplished, even if we had to walk through a bunch of mud to accomplish it, right? And it can be outward things like accomplishments that way, and it can be inward. And that's what's so great about it. And then the person gets to share. It's a gift to them and it's a gift to us because we get to know them more fully and we get to experience life in a more connected way. So this is literally one of my favorite traditions that we do as a family, and we can kind of really pick out what we think were the ways that we grew the most in the year. And then we also set the intention of what we hope to be creating for the year ahead of us. So it's kind of our New Year's party, or you can call it your reflection and intention party. It is just gold. It's gold to me. So I was thinking maybe it would be gold for you as well. And if it is, feel free to use it, steal it, borrow it, do it every single year. It is something that I feel like brings a lot of connection. And that is something that I'm really, really big about. And with that, I hope you've had a very beautiful holiday season and that you're moving into the new year with energy that feels good. And I hope that this podcast episode helps you with that. Let's jump in. What does the new year bring? What kind of energy and feelings, and what can we take a look at? What can we send love to? What can we see through different eyeballs or feel through different feelings so that we can be in an environment that just sits a little bit more easy, that feels a little better as we move into the new year? I think a lot of times people approach the new year. Some are very lax with the way that they approach the new year, and, life almost goes so fast that they don't have any time to evaluate it. And some maybe over-evaluate, right? And they really have a desire to grab the bull by the horns and write every great goal and do all the good things and declare everything that we're going to let go of and everything we're going to move into, and really get kind of serious about reinventing oneself. And I would just say that I feel a little bit in between. I feel like self-evaluation is one of the most important things that we can do, because that is how we improve. However, what I really like the idea of is that the new year doesn't necessarily ask you to become someone else. It more so invites you to remember who you are, to come home to who you are, beneath the habits that you have formed, beneath the noise of what surrounds you, beneath all of last year's expectations, like letting all of that go and being able to come into a space that allows you to come home to really who you are. Less force, more inviting, creating space and supporting yourself in becoming, right? Being in better alignment with your purpose. That's what we're really going to dive into a little bit more today, is how do we be in energy that is so good, but also supports us in this sort of 3D life that we're living in, because we do live in this world where we have results that come from actions that we take, right? So there is doing. And I really truly believe that our energy matters more than a list of goals. We are a human being versus a human doing. But right, we are so intertwined because the doing creates our being. When we drop into the doing of meditation, it changes our vibration, our frequency, our energy, and allows us to have a more inviting space in the being. Does that make sense? So it is so intertwined. Our energy, our resting state, how we show up in the world is determined by some doing. And when we ponder what helps us to be that human being, or to truly be the best version of ourselves, then we can evaluate the most important things in the doing that supports us in the being. Hopefully you followed me. Sometimes I like to get a little philosophical that way. So that's really what I want to dive into. I want to dive into what is the doing that helps us create the being? What is going to support us and allow us in the way that we are being, right? Or the way that our inner environment is operating, so that the outside world, outside of us, all falls into place. How can we support that? And what ways can we approach New Year energy to help us to be in better alignment with who we really are and what our purpose is and what is possible to move through us? I want to share 2 concerns that came from clients this year that really have sat in my heart, because as I heard them from the client that I'm going to tell you about, it was echoed through others. And it's big concerns. It's things that people tend to, re-sit in over and over and over in their life. And so I wanted to address it with you. Okay, so client number 1 asked me, Mish, will I ever really be able to meditate on a daily basis? It feels like a pipe dream. It just feels like my life can't allow that. Now, this is a young mom. She has 4 kids at home, and they're all, elementary age children. And she's got a lot on her plate. And so we had a discussion that was enlightening about the ways that she can accomplish the big things. And hers really bleeds into my next client, the other client that I wanted to tell you about, that had a really big concern on her heart. And the concern on her heart was, how do I feel good about things that I'm doing when I consistently feel like I should be doing other things? Finding the balance in not beating myself up that I'm doing something maybe for myself versus doing something, for my family or something spiritually or something, all of these things. And I find that we can feel really pulled and out of balance and even worried that we're not doing enough or we don't feel complete when we are not putting the priorities first. Okay, so this is the conversation. The conversation is about putting the priorities first, both with the first client and the second client, with the concern of, will I ever be able to really do the things that are the most important to me? And am I spending my time the right way? I'm so overwhelmed with these thoughts, okay? Because it is such a tricky, slippery slope that doing good things is never really a bad thing unless it takes the place of the most important things. So let's sit in this energy for a moment, and I'll give you a little bit of ideas and advice and things that I shared with my clients, and let that guide you also in your New Year conversation. With the first question of will I ever be able to really fit meditation in? My initial response to her was, have you ever watched the Miracle Morning documentary? The Miracle Morning documentary is based off of a book, this guy named Hal Elrod, and he really kind of felt similar feelings in his life. He felt very unsuccessful, and then all of a sudden he was like, you know what? I am going to research the heck out of successful people and find out what it is that they do that makes their lives tick. And I'm going to do it. I'm going to do whatever it is. And so he found 6 different things that, successful people do on a regular basis that really propels and helps their life. And his proposal is that you take time in the morning, you wake up at whatever time you have to before you are needed. Okay, so whatever that is, with family needs or with your work needs or whatever that is, to be able to accomplish these things. And then you can say, no matter what else happens in the day, I have been successful. I can be pulled, in lots of different ways. We could have a train that derails and I can be taking care of that, right? Your day gets hijacked in some way and you're okay because you did the most important things first. And this concept to me literally makes the most sense, because when we start our day off sort of to say on the right foot, then everything else is built off of that. It's like the base for our Lego, play day, for real. And you have to really take a look at what you think are the most important things that you need to build, even if those things, like a lot of things that he proposes, I'll read you the list. He calls them savers: silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing, writing. And he thinks that those are the most important things. And I agree, though I would probably say them different, or maybe I would add a couple of other things. I've had a very consistent routine myself, but even in this new year energy, I'm evaluating what I'm missing and what I would like to bring in to help myself to really elevate my energy, right? The way that I'm being and the way that I'm showing up. There's a quote that I love that really says this a lot better than I'm saying it. It says, become the person that can attract the success you want. Really taking a look at your life and evaluating, well, what is the doing that I can contribute to my life to help me to be in that energy, to help me become. And so my days, going back to my days, I feel like I've had meditation at the top of my list for a very long time. Spiritual connection, time with God, reading scriptures, praying, that type of thing. Also time in doing that with our family. So I do it personally and I also do it with my family. And then exercise has always been really high on my list. And I love affirmations and visualization. And I've gone through periods where I've done that more consistently than others. And, there's some things that I'm coming home to that I'm declaring this year that I want to do on a more regular basis. So for me, affirmations work the best when I'm brushing my teeth. And so I want to get back to that. And brushing my teeth with my left hand, because you are actually signaling to your brain not to go into automatic mode. So if you're brushing with your left, you're really alerting your subconscious brain in a way of saying, hey, listen up. This is what we are creating in our life. This is what we're doing. And just saying some simple things. Sometimes where I go wrong is I make my list of affirmations too long, becomes too much. So even just choosing 3 things that you say when you brush your teeth and allowing yourself to visualize and feel as you're saying those things, like we've talked about on other podcasts, super important. He says silence and kind of evolves that in meditation. Meditation to me is the most important, and meditating while in heart coherence. That's the ding, ding, ding kicker. And if you want to learn more about heart coherence, we will be doing and jumping into a lot more training and coaching this year that you'll be able to jump in on. I would love to have you in that space. So those things are really important. Exercise, yes. And then 2 more things that I really want to make a more driven or concerted effort towards in my year this year is reading and scribing. So I do a lot of reading, I do a lot of listening, but there are a certain list of books that I really want to accomplish reading a little bit more of. So I have a list of things that feel important to me, and writing in my journal is important to me as well. Now, I have an idea in my mind that some of these are more important than others. So for example, if there were some times where some needed to take a back seat, that would be okay. And maybe what would be even more important is that they alternate. Like maybe some days I write in my journal for an extended period of time, and that takes up my time for reading. Does that make sense? So I think, allowing yourself to have grace, but not so much grace that you fall off the train. I think that that's important. But I really love the idea of really just choosing whatever is most important to you. So if figuring out meditation to you is the most important, which I would say if you are not connecting spiritually, if you're not meditating, and if you're not exercising, those 3 would be at the top of my list, right? And again, like we never want to be in energy that feels so overwhelming that we don't do it. But we also want to know that if we are going to dedicate time in doing something and we put whatever we think is the most important things first, and we really accomplish those things, and we really do those things, then what we can actually expect is a result. We can expect something to come from the effort that we put in. And that I feel like is really important. And the whole idea that sometimes we overdo it, we think it needs to be really long. Whereas on the Miracle Morning documentary, Hal Elrod really talks about how a lot of these are like 10-minute things, right? I can do my affirmations and my visualization in 5 minutes. So it sounds like a lot, but when we really get habitual about it without being like a robot inside of it, does that make sense? Like we are actually doing it every day, but we're awake while we're doing it. We're not doing it on autopilot. That's the important part. We need to be awake and aware and in tune while we're doing it, because these things matter. These things set up the foundation for our living. There's a quote by Robin Sharma that says, "Your days are your life in miniature. As you live your hours, so you create your years. As you live your days, so you create your life. What you do today is actually creating your future. The words you speak, the thoughts you think, the food you eat, and the actions you take are defining your destiny, shaping who you are becoming and what your life will stand for. Small choices lead to giant consequences over time. There's no such thing as an unimportant day." Isn't that quote just like, oh, it is. It's so beautiful. It's so good. Your days are your life in miniature. Your days are your life in miniature. And so the idea is to figure out a system that if you were to look back at your life and you were to say, my days look like this, that you would feel like you had a lot of growth, that you would feel like you had a lot of balance, that you would feel complete, that you would feel successful. And that is important, because no matter how much I tell you, like, it's more important for you to be in the energy that you're in, you cannot walk around with all of the most blissful thoughts and be so lazy that you just sit on your couch all day, right? Or scroll on your phone. That's so important to realize that the doing creates the being. And moving on to the response that I had to the second client, they all just intertwine right so closely together about finding balance and evaluating the things that are not negotiable in your life so that you feel complete, right? With your days and what, therefore your weeks and your months and your life, the whole thing. So my response to her was to think about an object lesson. And this object lesson is probably something that you have seen before. It is literally so profound that it's important for us to recall it in our mind, or to be able to visually see it, on repeat, literally, and evaluate our lives, right? Socrates said, a life that is not evaluated is a life not worth living. I love that. And that's been something that's been ingrained in my brain forever, that we do need to evaluate our life. We need to see how things are playing out and going for us so that we can make adjustments, so that we can, look at the big picture and take a step back so that we can operate inside of it and be more effective. So the object lesson is, you take 2 jars that are exactly the same. You take the same amount of big rocks, the same amount of pebbles, the same amount of sand, and the same amount of water. And with the first bottle, you put the water in first, and then you put the sand in, and then you put the pebbles, and then you put in the big rocks. And what you see is that you can't fit it all in the jar. But if you take the second jar and you put the big rocks in first, and then you sprinkle in the gravel, and then you put in the sand, and then you put in the water, it all fits. It all fits in the jar. And the same is true for our days. When we put the big rocks in, everything fits. When we make the biggest things in our life a priority and we do those things, we find balance. When we are able to evaluate what is not negotiable, what things are defined as these big rocks, and we are very intentional about putting those things into the jar, then we have time and space for the gravel, for the sand, for the water, and we really feel full. We feel complete. We feel good. And it's a different feeling when we go through life knowing that we're putting the priorities first. So something that really gets in the way of this, right, is our phones. And so the whole idea between putting the big rocks in first and the miracle morning routine and creating your, I would even like to say like a magical morning, right? For some reason, like for me, that's what ignites magic in my life, is when I really am tuned in to all of the things that are the most important for me. And whatever that is for you might be different. It might look different. You might not have the same big rocks. And that's really up to you. Your choice with your rocks is so vital that you know that you're doing what's important for you to accomplish your priorities, your purpose, not someone else's. But our phones often get in the way. And so my challenge to you is to download an app like Be Present. That's one that I know about that will really block you from certain apps, okay, like Instagram and Facebook, and apps that can draw you in without you even really realizing what's happening. Before you wake up and realize, oh my gosh, I've been doing this for half an hour and my miracle morning routine is absolutely shot because I tuned in to something that did not feed me. It wasn't one of the big rocks. So it's really great to be able to give yourself the greatest pathway towards success. And sometimes that is, shutting those things off and making sure that you can be present during those moments when you carve out time to make sure that the priorities get done. There's a Latin expression called summum bonum, and I love this expression. It means the highest or ultimate good. And this was introduced by the Roman philosopher Cicero to denote the fundamental principle on which some systems of ethics is based. So the idea that our actions, if we consistently pursue them, will lead to the best possible life. When you're thinking about what are your biggest rocks, what are the things that you want to put in the jar first that will create, a magical morning for your own self, for you to be doing every single day, that will bring about the highest or the ultimate good. And you can just say over and over in your mind, the summum bonum. What's the summum bonum? Because you know what that means now. I literally learned this probably 4 months ago, and I refer to this phrase a lot because I just allow myself to say, well, what's the most important thing? And it really allows you to shed the things that are not as important as the most important thing. So allow yourself to just ponder, what is that for you? What are the big rocks? What are the steps in your morning routine that will really help you be aligned with your purpose? And as you're pondering that, there's a lot of questions that might come up for the new year, like what are my goals, or what should I really be doing this year? What should I focus my time and attention and energy on? And instead of asking that or those questions, maybe try asking, what wants to move through me? And just listen. What is it that wants to move through me? What is it that I can facilitate? And what can I do to facilitate the environment needed to accomplish what is possible to move through me? And just allow yourself to feel for a moment. When we approach asking this, I think we really become more aware of what our purpose is. We really become more aware of what God is asking us to do and what He knows we're capable of doing. And it might ask us to stretch a little bit or to, be a little more intentional about the energy and the things that we're checking into so that we can create the environment, right? The brain waves, the function of our brain, the way that we are more effective, the way that we are more in tune, the way that we're in a higher energy or vibration, so that we can welcome the amount that is being asked of us. So just allow yourself to feel that, to feel what is possible to move through me this year. And maybe evaluating your year and what's ahead of you and what the big rocks are. Maybe it will be more clear as you think about what is coming up for you through that question. To remind yourself that, yes, we are energy, and the way that we are being determines what we attract. But it still requires doing. It still requires moving through a 3D world and doing things so that we can be things, so that we can be in good energy and be a safe space and be in allowing and be content enough to not feel worried that we're not doing the right things. The doing helps us be. T. Harv Eker said, "My inner world creates my outer world." The things that we do help us to tune It helps us to pay attention. It helps us to open our eyes a little bit more, to evaluate if we have the big rocks right. What are you waking up and doing first with your day? And what can you do to change that to be a little more effective and to set the tone to create magic for your whole day? What could you wake up and do in the morning that would change the way that every single day you live plays out? And that choice right there, those choices, I think, are the best way to evaluate moving into the new year. To be able to say, what can I welcome? What can I allow and open my arms fully open for? And what am I here to be used for? That is so good. What is it that I can create that makes me feel excited when I wake up in the morning? When we start looking at our new year through those eyes, I think that is the best energy. Remember that the things that you do with your days matter. The things you do with your days create who you are. It creates the way your entire weeks go, your months go, your years go. Your days are your life in miniature. I hope that you can see that by evaluating, by doing, we create being. We connect more with our purpose. And the more that we are aware of that, the more wisely we can choose the big rocks that need to go in first. The better we can evaluate what needs to be a part of our life to create those magical mornings that we can check into. And I hope that you can see that these small choices are what make up the big parts of our life, that our days really are our life in miniature. And I hope that this little check-in helps you see that you have more power than you think you do. All right, my friend, I hope that you had some great downloads during that episode for your own life of things that became a little more clear, and that it was really helpful to sort of sit in that conversation. If this conversation helped you, please share it with a friend, with a loved one, with someone that you hope to create a really incredible year with. We literally are all in it together. We are all really trying to grow and improve and to become the best that we can be without so much pressure, right? Like, we have to ask ourselves to stretch a little bit, but it's really a beautiful thing to do it in the right energy. I truly am wishing you a very happy new year. Make sure that you're subscribed to the Mindset Check podcast so that you don't miss episodes like this that are coming up in the future. And before we go, I want to share with you a quote that is more of a mantra for me in the new year. And I hope that it inspires you to adapt the same mantra or to find something that you really love that lights you up and connects you to the possibility of what's coming up in your new year. This is mine. And suddenly, all the good things started chasing me. I'm going to say it over and over, my friends, and I hope that you find one that resonates with you. Until next time, my friend.